Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we'll be discussing another bit of Sharks news. Now, it was just a couple of weeks ago when we saw Tomas Hertl get injured, and it was announced that he would be injured for the remainder of the season with some ACL and MCL injuries. And now it was just announced this morning that Erik Karlsson will also be out for the remainder of the season with a broken thumb. Now, when it comes to ACL, MCL injuries in Hertl's case, that's normally a very long-term injury. Players could certainly miss an entire year, even if they get injured at the start of October, because it could take multiple months to try and get back on your feet at that point. Since Hertl did sustain this in around early February, late January, he should be fine for the start of this season. When it comes to Erik Karlsson, his being the broken thumb, it's not really a massive timeline to return from an injury like this, usually around 7 or 8 weeks. But since it is mid-February, 7 or 8 weeks would bring Karlsson to around mid-April. And considering, especially with Karlsson injuries, the Sharks almost certainly will not make the playoffs. There was very, very little reason why Karlsson should even try and come back in the last couple of games. There's absolutely no reason to do that. Might as well just have him rest up for the following year. And so now Sharks down their, arguably number one center, if not just a number two center, as well as arguably their number one defenseman, if not their number two defenseman, for the remainder of the year. Logan Couture is still injured, but he should be back sooner rather than later. But otherwise, the nightmarish season for the San Jose Sharks does continue to get even worse now. Now, since the Sharks were almost certainly not going to make the playoffs anyway, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to have Karlsson get injured. However, the Sharks don't want to finish super far back in the standings, considering they don't have their first round pick, and it just feels worse if you finish lower in the standings. And while they won't get past likely by the certainly by the Red Wings, but likely not either by the Kings or the Senators, it is possible that they get passed by the Ducks, who are only a single point behind them, or the Devils, who are only 2 points behind them. So the Sharks may finish something like fourth last in the league, which actually gives them a pretty decent chance of picking in the top 3 spots, and potentially even as the first overall pick, which would just be a very feels bad moment for the Sharks and the Sharks fans. But you can't control it at this point, so you sort of just got to let it ride, I guess. And basically the major consequence of this news is that it's going to be a bit more difficult to watch the Sharks, as there could be a lot more losing in the future. Class dismissed.